Coming to get you, Barbara.
Come and play with us, Daddy.
Avoid fainting. Keep repeating.
It's only a movie.
The Bloodstained Butterfly. When a young female student is savagely killed in a park during a thunderstorm, the culprit seems obvious. TV sports personality Alessandro Marchi, seen fleeing the scene of the crime by numerous eyewitnesses. The evidence against him is damning, but is it all too convenient? And when the killer strikes again while Marchi is in custody, it quickly becomes apparent that there's more to this case than meets the eye. My first Giallo for 31 Giallos for July is typically an atypical Giallo, in that here we have a killer, but we have no protagonist. Following Dario Argento's seminal Bird with the Crystal Plumage, many Giallos followed the methodology of having a protagonist, normally an amateur, who decided to investigate a crime, sometimes because they were implicated in a crime or they were a suspect in a crime, sometimes because they witnessed said crime, and these amateurs, by and large within the Gialli genre, investigate the crime because the police are normally too inept or are on the wrong track. However, here, that's not the case. Here there is no protagonist. There's no character for us to explore this world with, and whose eyes we should see this world through. Instead, in order to solve the mystery, we're taken on a procedural investigation with the police and through the courts. An individual is seen rushing away from the park. Numerous eyewitnesses see or believe they see, and this is another take from Argento's Bird with the Crystal Plumage, specific events take place. Eyewitnesses are not always to be trusted or to be believed. What we sometimes believe we see is not the same as what we do see. Following an elaborate butterfly sequence, over which plays a score by Gianni Ferrio, who also did the score for Death Walks at Midnight. The opening bars are actually from Tchaikovsky's Concerto No. 1 for piano, which is a great classical piece of music that morphs into something more akin to late 60s, early 70s lounge music. We are most certainly in the early 70s, and we are most certainly in Euro cinema. Following the credit sequence, which is seen through the image of a butterfly, we are then introduced in something that I've yet to see in any other film, almost as an Agatha Christie whodunnit. We are introduced to all of the characters by name and, as importantly, by their relationship to other characters within the piece. Interestingly, as was mentioned on the audio commentary, this film, for many years after its original release, did not feature this sequence, which is interesting, as without it is difficult to understand how the idea of no single protagonist works half as efficiently as it does with that sequence. With that sequence, we are introduced to characters who will live, characters who may die, characters who may bear witness to events, characters who will be suspects, and of course, who may be the killer. Without that sequence, I find it difficult to imagine how effective the film would have been to have pulled in a viewer. The general conceit within narrative film is that we see the film through the eyes of a main character, of a central character. And we empathise and we think, what would we do in that situation? And we understand the humanity of the character. When you're given 15 or more characters and you don't know who the main characters are, And as things progress, even though it's a gialli, and the gialli, unlike the later Polizzi movies, the Eurocrime movies of the 70s, it is not the norm for a gialli, from my experience, limited experience of the form, for us to follow the police on an investigation to quite the degree that we do within the first half of the movie. So for much of the running time, we follow the police as they speak to witnesses, as through trial and error they follow their investigations, and we see the procedure of narrowing down the suspect list and eventually identifying who they believe to be the culprit and charging them, and then subsequently that individual going through court and being found guilty of the murder at the opening of the film. Of course, once that happens, there's a second murder, or else it would be a fairly boring film. Bloodstained Butterfly does not have a multitude of murders. The set pieces, when they do take place, are well composed and work extremely well. However, they are few and far between for the bulk of the movie. I had no idea who the culprit was. That's got to be effective. After spending the last 40 plus years watching whodunnits, everyone imagines as an armchair viewer, as an armchair detective, we have an idea who the culprit will be. We have an idea of who the sussy character is in the corner. I don't know if suss is a word. If it is, we'll stick with it. If it isn't, I'm going to purchase a thesaurus for my next review. So the film was effective. It comes to a conclusion I was not expecting. As far as the characters, the director, Duccio Tessari, who also directed Death Occurred Last Night, does a very effective job here. The cast are all perfectly fine. Clearly, as with all gialli, you have some issues whether you decide to watch it in Italian, and then you still have people dubbed not necessarily well, or whether you watch it in English and have them dubbed not necessarily well. Helmut Berger, who played Dorian Gray back in the 70s, who was a bit of a sex symbol, and the way he struts around with his shirt open throughout, you can imagine he would have been popular both with the ladies and with the gentlemen, acquits himself very well. It's very difficult to understand with his character for a long period why he's morose, why he seems to be wandering the streets, just kind of looking slightly depressed but cool. However, all is revealed in the end. Carol Andre from Cult 38 Special Agent. Evelyn Stewart is in the film. She appeared in Fulci's The Psychic and Martino's The Case of the Scorpion's Tail. So has some giallo credits to her name. One of the things that stand out for me, other than the eventual reveal, is actually the ongoing joke about the police, who seem to have just got a coffee machine into the station, and the inspector is continually complaining about the coffee. It sounds trite, however, it's always good to have a bit of humour. If you don't think that, you're watching the wrong channel. But please don't go. If you're expecting and wanting a giallo with a black-gloved killer going around with exotic weapons, taking out multiple victims, a la Bava's Bay of Blood, Argento's Tenebrae, if you're expecting a high body count, well, if you're expecting Fulci, you're not getting it. You're not getting high body count. You're getting an effective early 1970s Euro thriller with some, as per norm, incredibly dated styles, however, with a sense of cool. And I would give it, I think I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. I oohed and ahed for a very long time about whether to do ratings. I wasn't sure, and I'm still not sure. It seems trite, however, when I've gone out and I've asked a few people, what do you think? The answer by and large has been, we want a rating. I think that went okay. Coming soon. 31 Giallos for July. Film 2. Black Veil for Lisa. That sounded pretty cool and dramatic, didn't it? Does have John Mills in it. And wait till you see what I think of this. I'm Mark Logan, and it's only a movie. Whatever your comments, please leave them below. If you leave comments, leave me a like, say what you like and what you didn't like. Keep on telling yourself it is only a movie.